What's going on, everybody? Nick from the Sound Coop here, and I'm coming at you with a little guitar review. This is a Falx 3 made by my good buddy Matt at Arles Guitars. This is kind of a part 3 video. About 10 months back, I did a video where Matt let me borrow the first run of guitars he built. He built 4 guitars. This is one of the 4. This is the one that I ended up buying. And actually, I fell in love with this guitar so much, after I bought this, I ended up just putting in a custom order, and I got this beauty. I just took possession of this about a month ago. A pretty amazing guitar. I already made a video on this. I'll link it below. I'll also link the video where I went over the first 4 guitars Matt made. These second 4 he made are a little bit different. They're more of a Gibson scale length, whereas the first 4 guitars are more of a Fender scale length. The second 4 are the 24 3/4 scale like a Gibson. This is a 25 1/2 like a Fender Strat or a Telecaster. Pretty amazing guitar. So I just want to show you guys some tones. I'll get you guys a bunch of up-close shots while I'm doing that. I want to go over the specs and just talk about some of the things that I love about this guitar. So yeah, let's get into it. So all the sounds in this beauty are coming from a set of Lindy Fralin noiseless P90s. I love these pickups. It's part of the reason why I picked this guitar out of the 4 guitars. I also just really love the aesthetics of this thing. It's a beautiful guitar. All the binding work is gorgeous. The paint work is gorgeous. Also, the fretwork and the inlays, totally amazing. This is really a solid guitar, and especially considering the price point. One of the nice things about getting in on a boutique brand early is the prices haven't gotten crazy yet. So there's one nice advantage. This guitar was $1,900. Matt wanted $2 grand for it, but he knocked $100 off because he didn't have to ship it to me, and I didn't want a case. So that saved him a little bit of money. So this thing was $19, worth every penny. We'll get into that a little bit more later, but this guitar is definitely a little bit more tricked out than I typically like from a guitar. I really like old looking beat up guitars. This thing's pretty gaudy. I mean, it has mother of pearl inlays, beautiful like felon blue paint job. It has acrylic binding all the way around. Really, really nice, really flashy. Typically not my vibe, but when I saw this thing, I just had to have it. So let's get into all the specifics and the cool things about the guitar. All right, I'm gonna go over all the specs. I'm gonna point out a couple things I love about this guitar. Now, Matt being a friend of mine, I realize that this makes me potentially less than objective. So maybe in like a gesture of good faith, let me point out the only problem that I have with this guitar. And it's not a terrible issue. And it's something that Matt has subsequently corrected, but just so you guys don't think I'm just sugarcoating this whole thing, one problem that I've had with this. So I use these kind of stands a lot in my studio. If I set the guitar in the stand while it's plugged in, the plug here hits this lower foot of the stand. So I have to put the guitar at a slight angle in the stand, kind of a bummer. I don't have that problem with my string swing though. I have like one of those string swing 6 guitar upright guitar stands. This thing fits fine in there, no problems at all. But one of these like floor style stands, it bumps a little bit. So this isn't a huge problem, but it's something to be aware of. This is only an issue in the first 4 serial guitars that Matt built. So if you're buying anything above serial number 4, he's moved the jack a little bit more this way to get it out of the way. So he came by, took some measurements after I pointed it out, and then just made an adjustment. So that has been corrected, but if you happen to be looking at one of the first 4 guitars Matt made, just be aware of that as a small issue. Aside from that, this guitar is flawless. So let's just do all the specs. I think let's start at the headstock, and we will work our way down. We got a Firebird-esque headstock, not only in like the shape of it, but also in the orientation of the tuners. It is a little wider and a little taller than a Firebird headstock, and of course, we got the two-tone half wood, half paint, where the Firebird usually had like paint down the middle and then wood around the outside edges. So a little bit different, but very similar. If you guys missed any of my other videos, the reverse-oriented headstock is really cool. Not just because it looks awesome, but it actually makes the strings feel different. If this tuner for the low string was here, it would actually make the string less taut to produce the same pitch. So because the string has to travel further to the top of the headstock compared to like a Strat or a Telecaster, it has to have more tension in order to get the same note. So what this does is it makes the bass strings more tense, more stiff, and it makes the treble strings more slinky compared to, you know, like a Strat or a Tel. And I really love that. Cool physics. So anyway, working our way down, we got a bone nut. Now, as far as the neck itself, we got a beautiful piece of 4A flamed maple. I mean, look at that. Absolutely gorgeous. Very 3D. All the tiger striping is just beautiful. The grain lines on this are really straight and long. A little bit different from my other white Arles. On my white Arles, the grain lines are a little bit more circular. It just looks really cool. Nice contrast. I don't know where Matt is sourcing the wood, but it's a beautiful piece of maple. So anyway, fretboard's a Pal Ferro fretboard. I realized that it's kind of one of the cheaper woods to use, but he got a beautiful piece, not only in how smooth it feels, but I love the striping. It's pretty subtle. I've seen some Pal Ferro fretboards where the striping is just way out of line, and I've seen other ones where you can barely even see it. This is just a nice, subtle amount of striping, and I'll get you guys some pictures of that. And we got Abalone Inlays here. These are really beautiful. As I said, I'm typically not into flashy guitars, but it's a no-brainer. It just matches everything perfectly. Now, the binding on the whole guitar is a PVC-A. So this is like a vintage, kind of a 50s style binding that Matt was able to source. Really cool looking. It's definitely a lot more subtle than like modern Perloid. It has all the 3D character, but it just doesn't look as bright and flashy as modern Perloid. I really love that. All the binding work and fretwork is just absolutely cherry. You can't feel any of the edges. He's rolled the binding wonderfully. You can't see any of like the roll work. Beautiful job. All of the frets have rounded ball ends. Beautiful fretwork, very smooth. These are sort of like a smaller style. I have medium jumbos on my white Arles. These are a smaller style fret, but I really like them. I've been using this guitar for R&B, and I think that, you know, the way that it's set up is perfect for that style of music. So anyway, beautiful neck all around. Now moving down to the body, we have a piece of ash. And Matt actually chambers these. I'll show you guys a picture where all the chambering is. I asked him how much of the body he removes. I'd guessed 30%. He said it's somewhere between 34 and 35, probably more likely. But he's got some nice little pockets routed out of this thing. It makes the guitar very lightweight. This guitar is 8.17 pounds. So definitely like a nice weight. Not as light as my other Arles, but you know, this thing is a nice lightweight guitar. Definitely not heavy. Also has a real nice center weight. Nothing is, you know, tipping one way or the other. So beautiful weight, beautiful balance. As I said, PVC-A on the binding, on the body and neck. What Matt does is he actually uses the old school method where he heats up the binding and makes it form fit the channel when it's in its resting state. And then because it's like a PVC-A, he uses a liquid acetone, which I'm sure you guys have seen in like Instagram videos where they use like a needle to inject it between the binding and the wood. No glue. What happens is the PVC-A binding emulsifies because of the liquid acetone, and so it actually bonds itself to the wood. So this is, you know, a vintage technique used by a lot of people, very common. No glue, really nice. Nice binding work all around, just absolutely beautiful. Now, as far as the bridge and the tailpiece, when I got this, it had a tune-o-matic and a stop tail like a Les Paul would have. And I decided that I wanted to have that sort of a setup in my white Arles. So what I did was I asked Matt if we could convert this to some sort of a Trem system. And he recommended the Duesenberg Les Trem. It's basically a drop-in Trem replacement for like a Les Paul style stop tail and tune-o-matic bridge. So he actually, I ordered the parts, he put it in for me. Very nice of him to do that. And this thing has been an absolute joy. So if you have like a stop tail guitar with a tune-o-matic and you want a Trem system in here, This is a good option, no modifications required, easy to swap in and out, and I just love the way that this thing feels. So pretty cool. Now, as far as the paint and finish, we got this beautiful Felon Blue. This is one of the nicest Felon Blue paint jobs I've ever seen. It looks absolutely gorgeous, nice and bright, really cool looking. All of the finish is nitro on both the neck and the body. Really cool. He's using vintage techniques. And I think another thing to point out as far as the finish goes, the first 4 guitars he built were basically built pristine. So no aging, no relicking, no beating up of the bodies, no cracking of the finish. And this thing looks absolutely pristine. It's just a flawless paint job. Everything looks great. No errors or dings or nicks or anything. The white Arles that I have is not like that. The second round of 4 guitars he built were all built with sort of a relic vibe. The white one has a decent amount of finish checking. No damage or anything like that, but just some checking. So basically like a closet classic. But the first 4 he built are completely pristine. They look brand new. So if you want a straight brand new vibe, Matt can do that. If you want a relic vibe, Matt can do that also very, very well. I'm a serious relic addict. I take the relic work on guitars pretty seriously because I want something that looks accurate and cool. And all of the work he's done on those back 4 guitars came out stellar. So completely competing with what Gibson and Fender are doing in their custom shops, and definitely on par with a lot of the boutique brands too. So nice that he can build vintage looking guitars or, more newer looking guitars. Just A+ work across the board on all the paint and finish. Yeah, very nice. All right, so as far as electronics, like I said, we got a set of Freyland noiseless P90s in here. Now in this control cavity, Matt's doing something a little bit different. Instead of using like a normal wiring setup, he's actually using a PC board. Now when I heard that, it kind of turned me off. The thought of having a PC board in there just seemed like an extra point of failure. But I've talked this over with Matt, and he assures me he's sourcing the boards from a really good spot. They're all being custom built, and he's pretty confident the boards are going to outlast both me and the guitar. So I'm willing to put that to the test, but I've had this thing for 10 months, and I haven't had so much as a scratchy pot. So far, so good. Now, I think part of the reason why he wants to use PC boards is he wants to implement just some options or try some different options. So the first thing he's trying is a variable boost. So this is 9-volt powered. I'm also not a big fan of 9 volts in guitars. When I heard this boost, I was instantly just like, forget it. I don't even care. I'll change the 9 volt every couple years if I have to, no big deal. So variable boost, it can give you up to 12 dB of boost. I have this one set for about 6 dB. But it's not just a boost, it's also a low-end roll-off. Now the awesome thing about that is there's certain tube amps where you hit it with a boost and the low end just gets way out of line. So this thing is rolling off the lows when it's engaged below 160 hertz, and it kind of prevents a tube amp from getting flubby or muddy when you're doing a boost. So I really love this. I've been nothing but enjoying it so far. But you could also use it technically as an EQ. There's a trim pot in the back where you can adjust the boost. You could set that boost to not do any boosting at all and just use this thing as an EQ. Now, I have the boost engaged, but let's just kind of take a quick listen and just hear what the EQ sounds like. I really love this EQ. So I've got this thing in the neck position. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to play downstrokes on the E string. You can listen to the bass, and then I'm going to flip this thing on. So I'll do 4 hits of the bass string, and then I'll flip this thing and I'll do 4 more hits, and you can kind of listen to what the EQ sounds like. So off, on. So you're not just getting a louder signal, you're definitely getting more treble. When I actually first heard this, I thought it was a treble booster, but checking out Matt's specs, it's actually just rolling off some low end. And of course, because you're rolling off the lows, it's going to change how it's hitting the amp. So it sounds like a treble boost, but it's a low end roll off. Very, very helpful, very, very handy. I really love that a lot. All right, so the last thing I think we should address is the playability. This thing gets an absolute A+ for me. I said this in my other video, but basically the best playing guitar in terms of action and just overall playability that I have is the Novo. Those strings are so on the deck, I don't know how Fano does that. But I have a Mulecaster and I have a Gibson Murphy Lab. Both of those guitars are darn near close to the Novo. Not quite as good as the Novo, but I can't get any of my Telecasters or Strats to play anywhere near as good as the Murphy Lab and as the Mulecaster. So the Mulecaster and Murphy Lab have awesome playability. This thing is totally in line with what those guys have going on. Matt hasn't been able to get this quite as low as Fano, but these strings are on the deck. And it's the same thing with my other Arles. They both have superb action, definitely top class, no complaints at all whatsoever. I love the playability on both of these guitars. The setup and finish is just top notch. So zero complaints at all whatsoever. Another cool thing about this guitar, and I just kind of lucked out, and it took me a couple of weeks of owning this to even realize, when I bought this, I didn't know that Matt had serialized all the guitars. So he's got serial numbers on the back of the headstock of all the guitars. This is 001, the very first one. So kind of cool. I had no idea when I bought it. I just bought it because I love the aesthetics and I love the playability. And yeah, having the first serial guitar that was made by Matt is pretty cool. Again, it is cool to get in early, especially for the price. He's selling a couple of the other ones from the first round right now on Reverb for $2,100. And I think that is a really good deal. You're basically at, you know, like Fender American prices there. I said this in my other video. My Novo was like $2,800 when I got that thing back in 2019. That was a good deal. They're like way over $3,000 now. Like the model that I have is a little bit closer to $3,500. And if you want anything with binding from Novo, you're talking about, you know, $5,000 or more. So yeah, as far as I'm concerned, the price of these guitars is absolutely stellar. I definitely could not pass buying this guitar. And when he gave me the option to do a custom order, it was pretty much a no-brainer. The custom one that I have, the white Arles, is that thing was $2,400. So for a fully custom spec build, that is a really good deal. I'm going to put links to all of Matt's pages below. His website, his Reverb page where he sells his guitars. I'll put a link to his Instagram so you guys can check out all the things. If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer them down in the comments, or just shoot Matt an email. He's a really nice guy. Happy to answer questions if there's anything you guys want to know about. Otherwise, yeah, pretty cool guitar. I'm pretty happy with it. If you guys like the video, please do like and subscribe. It helps me out a lot. I really do appreciate it. And I will see you guys again soon.